All right, let's call this meeting to order, please. Call the roll.
Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Commissioner Tucker.
Yes.
We have 4 commissioners present.
All right, first item of order on our agenda is the election of officers. Have all of the appointments been made now by the various?
We are waiting for one more. Yes. Correct.
Don't have a nominating committee or anything like that. So I will open it up for nominations for officers. We need a president, a vice president.
Have to have a president and a secretary, but we've historically always have had a vice president.
Okay. Anybody like to volunteer for any of these positions? President.
I believe so. Barry Lesso was president of this RDC for probably 15, 20 years straight.
Good with it. Yeah, I'm good with it. Yeah.
I can't vote anyway. Right. Okay.
Hesitate to recommend something when the other person isn't here that you're putting on, but it never hurts if.
Sounds like you're volunteering to be secretary, Randy.
Iris will not mind.
Well, yeah. Who is the keeper of the minutes? Jeff?
I prepare them and then we upload them onto the state website.
And then we vote on it.
I'm looking to take Iris's place. I'm just looking at, if she's not here, I hate to nominate someone that says, now hold on here.
Excuse me, gentlemen. Can you clearly speak into the mics while you are talking during the meeting?
And Miss.
Well, with that being said, if everybody's in agreement on that.
I'm fine with, do you want to slate yourself in or put yourself in, or do we want to do the slate from last year? If we want to do slate from last year,
Let's just, I'll make the motion to continue the slate from last year. And that way we move forward. And if Iris has any issues with that, then we can address that at a particular time.
And she can certainly resign at any point from if she wants to make the switch.
yeah, second.
Yep. Okay. All right. We have a motion to continue our slate of officers from last year. That would be myself, Richard Martin, as president, Cullen McCarty as vice president, and Iris Kiesling as secretary. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the selection of that slate of officers. Would you please read the roll?
Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
The next one is our 2025 meeting schedule. Do you have a proposal on that?
I always bring it up the first meeting. Third Wednesday of the month has worked well historically. I would just note that the March one is spring break, and typically we'll do that on the 4th Wednesday as opposed to the 3rd. That's meets your guys' approval. We'll go ahead and get it noticed that way.
Got any objections? Would someone like to make a motion to that effect?
We adopt the 2025 calendar every 3rd Wednesday of the month, except for the month of March to the 4th Wednesday. Right?
Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for our 2025 meeting schedule. Please read the roll. It's going quick.
Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy.
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Next item is the nursing school property transfer to Ivy Tech. In your packets, you have a sales disclosure form, which has been completed. You have in all of its parts, most of it doesn't pertain to us. You have a quitclaim deed, which would convey the Redevelopment Commission's property as described in Exhibit A, which is the legal description of the property, which is essentially the building out at Ivy Tech, to the trustees of Ivy Tech Community College of Indiana. And you have the Exhibit A, and then you have a copy of the current lease, which has now been fulfilled, the bond having been paid. And if you'll turn to page 16, under the surrender clause on page 16, you will find the following. Monroe County Redevelopment Commission shall transfer by deed the Ivy Tech property to Ivy Tech so long as Ivy Tech is not in default under this lease, which they are not. Such deed shall contain a restriction that the property shall revert to Monroe County if it is not used for educational training, workforce development, or economic development purposes by a nonprofit corporation or a state chartered higher education institution. And if you look at the deed, under the exhibit legal description, there is a statement that says the property shall revert to Monroe County if it is not used for educational training, workforce development, or economic development purposes by a nonprofit organization or a state chartered higher education institution. So that part of the agreement has been fulfilled. And I think that's all we have in this packet. The rest of this document is just the purchase and the lease agreement documents. Anybody have any questions?
What was the date the bond was paid off?
2022, end of 2022?
I think it was paid off actually I think the final payment was made either at the end of 23 or 24.
I know we could have done this last year, I think.
Could have done it any time after that bond payment.
Assuming based upon this, you had conversation with Ivy Tech and.
Yes.
Just to.
Spent some time with Aircoin and making sure that, we named everything appropriately. Their legal department has had a chance to review this, and they are excited to get that building.
Still, and their intent is to still continue to use that building for the
Yes.
nursing school. Wonderful.
They are restricted in the future as to what it can be used for by the terms of the deed.
I'm just curious, I wasn't around when how long ago was this purchased? 15?
2013.
I mean, I know it's public. What was paid for that? What was paid for that building and the property approximately?
It was a little bit, but not much over $1 million.
Including building? Okay.
If you look at the last page, there's a settlement statement from the original purchase.
Not sure that's in the packet that I
Okay.
printed off because necessary.
The total on the settlement was 1.625. That included all the fees and everything else.
And that building has been solely used since then for a nursing school?
Correct.
Okay, and they can't sublet it out per some kind of an agreement? Now that they own it, they can do whatever they want?
Well, it's got to be used for educational training, workforce development, or educational or economic development purposes by a nonprofit organization or a state chartered higher education institution.
Higher education, okay. Okay. Means it could not be used as a K through 12 charter school.
Well, if it's a nonprofit.
At higher education, so I mean, do you mean above, beyond 12th grade?
Well, it's an or. If that was a not-for-profit organization, this would allow it. But again, this was a decision made a decade or so ago.
Way before, yeah. Okay, so
I don't know.
way before school choice.
From a redevelopment standpoint, our basis is to accept or deny.
Right, okay, all right.
the-
Well, I don't even know if you have that. You're violating a lease agreement if you don't
don't.
accept.
Right, so the agreement's done anyway, okay.
Right. Okay.
All right.
And the bond that was allocated for the purchase was also allocated to help remodel and make it into,
I'm not
I
sure.
think that was included in the original purchase.
I think there was a little bit, but I think Ivy Tech did most of that.
continue on. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, and it's, Lee Marchand's name is on that facility now. One of the things that he did was work with the nursing school people there to create a program run through his facilities, which was something that had not been available in the community prior to that. So all right. I will need a motion to approve this transfer to Ivy Tech.
I'll move.
And second? Motion and a second to approve the nursing school property transfer to Ivy Tech. Want to read the roll, please?
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
You will tell me which and where on these documents I have to sign, because I saw there were several places.
We will probably need to have you come in at a separate time when we have a notary
Yep.
to notarize it.
They have to be notarized. I saw that. Okay. Next, we have a set of minutes for the November 20th meeting. There was just there was the discussion of the annual spending report and some modifications that we had asked for that. Did you end up sending us a final version of that report? I couldn't find it.
Go with maybe not, but I did file it and I will send you one.
Yes, if you'd please send us a copy of the filed report. And I think everything else, question I had about the minutes. Anybody else have any questions about the minutes?
You already changed the one.
I caught that one.
Yep. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as stated.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
All right, then we have some claims. There are two claims. One has to do with bond payments to Old National in the amount of $123,347.91. And the other one is to Butler, Fairman, and Seifert in the amount of $20,804.49. And that is work related to Karst Farm Greenway connector. Earlier, Randy had some questions about these bond payments. And in our discussions, it was not clear that the bond payment amounts were correct or were aligned with the decisions that we had made earlier to cover the potential shortfall that we were anticipating for next year, where we asked ONB to cover some of the bond payments out of our reserve.
Correct.
And we do not know that these numbers are correct, given that request.
They do not look correct, given that request. I would ask that you table the bond payment item until the next meeting, That way, if we have to do some correcting entries or something like that, we can have it done and then you approve kind of that final version again. My memory was that 30 or 40,000 was to come off of each of those, and that the debt reserve fund had that kind of surplus in it, and this does not appear to be that. And if it is, shame on me.
Well, I'd make a motion to table the minutes or table the claims for the bond issue until excluding Butler, Seaford, and Fairman's. Just make a motion to exclude the bond repayment until the February meeting and to move forward with the Butler, Fairman, and Seaford claim to be paid.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims for Butler, Fairman, and Seaford in the amount of $20,804.49, and to defer consideration of the bond repayment to Old National until our council can verify that the amounts shown are correct.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
You okay if I just cross this out on this one and sign?
Yes.
You'll get back with us prior to the meeting, so we
Yes,
know where we stand and we're
Yes.
prepared.
For clarity's sake, on the trail, which segment of the Greenway Trail was this claim for?
I'm pretty sure it's the Liberty Drive connector that goes
Yeah. Okay.
Cars Farm to
Constitution.
Constitution.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, because that area is now looking good in regards to alternative transport.
Oh, yeah.
Leeway to go all the way from Ellettsville over to, Walmart on bike.
Sign that. Okay. We are moving through our agenda. Next item is public comment. I see no one from the public here. Is there anybody online who wanted to make a comment? Speaking up. Okay, so we're on to staff comments. You seem to be the staff that's present.
Yes. Lisa, I talked to Lisa earlier today. She indicated that everything's kind of really slow at this time of year, particularly with a foot of snow outside. So that's it. I don't really have any other comments at this point.
I know they've been making some progress on the vernal project, but it's slow. But I noticed things are rising in the air out there, at least. Okay.
Fullerton's moving forward very rapidly.
Okay, we're down to commissioners' comments. Randy, do you have anything you wanted to?
The only comment as we start this year out and we start looking, we've got our schedule down and such, as we start looking, from a redevelopment standpoint, and as we continue to go housing standpoint and, the changes that we're seeing in our county, where or what is the mechanism to even have a discussion on if we were to look at something to help with the housing needs. Something for us to all be cognizant of. We've talked about residential TIFs. We've looked at things that throughout our community to help lower the cost. What we need always try to look at is how do we make something from a governmental standpoint, as we did with Ivy Tech, where we end up with educational benefits, job benefits, and making that economic basis of our community higher and keeping the affordability down. With that, the TIF areas work. Just need to continue to try to look and see what's going to be the areas that's our growth that we need to keep people in our county at the lowest cost with the highest wages. So, and that comes down to how we structure that. So.
I think one of the things that I probably should have said as staff comment is I know that the town of Ellettsville is their wastewater plant. There's a tour that the BDC is putting on tomorrow. Provided you just need to let them know. But I think that's all part of a beginning of a bigger conversation of how do we deal with wastewater in areas that doesn't have sewer extensions to it, and how's that going to work? And I think that goes to what you part of the puzzle of what you just were talking about.
And I could add to that. I know that the regional sewer district has been thinking about these issues as well, and we also are cognizant of what it takes to do that, which is considerably more than most people would expect. Read an article, was reading an article this morning. There are 153,000 water districts in the U.S., 16,000 wastewater districts. So there's a tremendous difference in the number of entities that get involved in the delivery of water than there is in the treatment of water that is the effluent from all of these residences and businesses. And a different amount of public investment that goes into them as well. And the district has not been particularly involved in wastewater treatment. We've done some in the context of roadway funding, but nothing in terms of plants or operation facilities to do collection and stuff like that. Nor have we been involved in the other infrastructure other than roadways that supports housing or employment areas. And these are areas that I think we're probably going to have to start looking at more closely because of the huge amounts of investment it takes to do these. Really beyond the means of any particular development project at this point. And we need to think about ways to facilitate the capital investments that are that the private market is simply not going to make because of the scale. Long-term recovery of funds that are part of the mechanism for billing customers for incremental uses of facilities over a long period of time. So, very difficult issue for us to deal with. Colin, anything from you?
Well, I'll lob onto that a little bit because I think infrastructure is on everybody's mind right now. And it seems like with every major natural disaster, wherever it is, we run into these problems. And the fact that it's happening in our nation's second largest area is astonishing. It's horrific. But it's been there for a long, long time. There are a lot of factors at play, but it calls to mind that not so long ago we had water issues in this county. Not in my lifetime, thank heavens. It was the lake that brought my dad here. So it is, to what Richard said, I think we've got to put it out there that this is a very expensive proposition. And I share Randy's concern. I think a lot of employers do about affordable housing or workforce housing. I think we're almost to the point of it doesn't exist anymore because infrastructure alone, the cost just keeps going up. And I'll say this, that at Smithville, we've run into issues with low-cost production in utility bills. I'll be kind on that. And we're going to litigate because they've done a lot of damage. And come to find out, they've done damage in other areas of utilities throughout this city. It's a big problem. And I don't know how we're going to get back to where, or even close to where we were cost-wise in terms of the cost of infrastructure to the cost of a development. And this was our argument at Smithville against especially the 25-year scale on subdividing property and the 2.5 acre issue. It adds to the cost of all utility delivery and roadways and as well. So, and maintenance. There's a lot to it, and it's something we just have to put on the table everywhere. But that's our job here on this commission, and I think we've done an excellent job with it. because that's what we pay attention to. You know, it's what we do. So I'm not going to end on a down note. I do want to compliment the county highways for the work they did. Tremendous work to be done, and they got it done safely. And I think that with the kind of snow we got, we were just in the sweet spot. And so props to the county highways and everybody involved with that project, with getting it streets cleaned and roads safe.
Tucker?
No, happy 2025, and ditto to what Colin said. And thanks to the city for not charging me for parking tonight. Free parking on the square tonight.
Yeah,
That was a good deal. Yeah, save me $3 in quarters, whatever.
meters are like this.
Yeah.
The note I'm going to end on is in doing some work on the rates for the sewer district. I was looking at the growth in consumer price index over years, and from March of 2019 to November of 2024, the consumer price index went up. And so costs are up across the board, and it catches up very quickly because we're doing budget forecasts and what's the growth of our investment and the cost of our loans. And when you start thinking about things escalating, and those are just with, you know, the small increments. We had a couple of really bad years in there, but most of it's been in the kind of 3% area, and still 3% over several years gets to be a big number, and people just don't realize it. Okay, anything else from anybody? All right, with that, I think we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming today. That was a very good, quick meeting.